Broken Kanu's way, and Dahui's right out of the centre. It's Kanu, what's he going to do? Oh! Can you believe it?
Hello Arsenal fans, and welcome back to a new episode of Can You Believe It, an Arsenal podcast. And it was a really good performance this weekend against the Newcastle side, which are pretty much on the beach in terms of they're not going to get relegated. I know they're 17th in the league, but they're 9 points ahead of Fulham in the bottom three, so they're pretty much guaranteed safety, I would say. I think Fulham are very close to actually being confirmed to be relegated anyway. But obviously we're on the beach as well in terms of the league, because obviously we don't have that much to fight for. We just have to try and finish as good as possible. But it was good to get a win here and give us some confidence in the meantime for the game on Thursday. But there were some good things to talk about in this game, and that's what I'm going to do here as well, as take some of your questions. So let's get into it. Let's not waste any time, and we'll start where we always do with the team lineup. So Matt Ryan started in goal. So he replaced Bernd Leno, Bernd Leno performed well, but it was good to see Matt Ryan get another game. Hector Bellerin came in at right back, with Luiz and Gabriel at centre back. Granit Xhaka continued at left back. That man plays every single game that's possible, doesn't he? El Neni and Ceballos in midfield, with the front four being Willian on the right, Martin Odegaard at 10, Gabriel Martinelli on the left, and Pierre-Emerick Aubameyang, captain, is back up front. So I'm encouraged firstly by the lineup because Aubameyang was back. Now, a lot of people were saying, let's see Balogun, let's see Aziz, but I thought it was important to get minutes into players that we wanted to start on Thursday. Aubameyang is definitely one of those players that we want to start, and if we're going to do well on Thursday, is going to be a big part of it. So he was the man that had to start this game and get some minutes in his legs, which he did. The others I wanted were Tierney, but Tierney is still out and is probably going to be unlikely for Thursday, which is a shame. And Luiz and Gabriel, I wanted to start this game as well, to again give them minutes. But obviously, with what happened with Luiz later, it's a shame what happened. But Gabriel had a good performance, I thought. But it was a game that I thought we could change things up, but also give some players some much needed minutes before the big game on Thursday. So the game started actually quite well, and we scored within 6 minutes, and it was Mohamed El Neni's first ever Premier League goal. So he's been here, 5 years, and that's his first Premier League goal. He's actually scored quite a lot this season. I think he scored 3 goals this season, which by his standards is actually quite a lot. It was a good, well-worked goal. Luiz was heavily involved with a really good ball over the top. Bellerin with a really good cross. Aubameyang fluffed the shot. I don't know how he didn't score, but El Neni on the half volley volleys it in, and it's 1-0 to Arsenal. Again, El Neni's first Premier League goal. El Neni's a weird player because I think a lot of fans like his personality, but I think his play style is it's just not spectacular at all. He's just someone who keeps the game ticking, which is fine if you have quality around him. A player like El Neni can work. If El Neni was with a Santi Cazorla or a Mesut Ozil in front of him, then El Neni is completely fine. But if you have Dani Ceballos, Willian, and other players around him, then it's not that inspiring. But credit El Neni, he was really quick on the move. We haven't had enough goals from midfield. Obviously, Joe Willock has been the talk from a lot of people for the goals he's been getting at Newcastle. But it was good to see El Neni get a goal here. We started well. We were pressing high, not too high, but we do this thing where we're not doing the full Jurgen Klopp Jennings pressing, but we're doing the man marking thing, so we're not allowing Newcastle to have any short options at all. Newcastle started to get into the game with Saint-Maximin, who's an incredible player. There was a dribble that he done in the first half that caused us problems. He's a really good player. But for the most part, I think we looked the more dominant side. I think there were a few reasons for this. I think firstly, David Luiz's passing is something we've just missed over the last few weeks since he's been out. Luiz can be hot and cold. He can produce mistakes. But the one thing that David Luiz has always been good at, and always will be good at, is that his passing is exceptional. Some of the long passes that he produced in this game were absolutely terrific. And it is such a shame what ended up happening later on with the injury. So he obviously went off with a hamstring injury. It looks like that it's not too serious. The early reports, people have said that it doesn't look like he will be out for the rest of the season, but he will probably miss Thursday, which is a huge blow because I'm pretty sure he played himself into contention with this performance. But the other player that really produced well on the day was Gabriel Martinelli. He had the beating of his fullback all game. He was absolutely terrific. There was one bit where he turns it through the defender's legs. Now, I have to mention that Martinelli was up against a winger at right back. So Jacob Murphy was playing right wing back, basically, in the three at the back. So, yes, it's not a complete traditional fullback, but Martinelli had him on toast all game. He was absolutely terrific. It makes you question why he hasn't got more minutes, and when he performs like that, it's a really good sign. I think the other thing, where people have had some doubt about Martinelli is if he can play with Aubameyang in the same team. And I think this was the best game that Martinelli and Aubameyang actually linked up with, because there wasn't any unbalancing, there wasn't any lack of technical quality, because you had Martin Odegaard, and as much as people don't like him, you had Willian as well. People who were technically secure on the ball, but they linked up very well. I remember a game last year where Martinelli played with Aubameyang, and it wasn't the best performance. I think it was the Burnley away game last season, but Martinelli played on the right that day, and I think Aubameyang played on the left, but it just didn't work at all. I remember we were very dull. We didn't have many attacks at all. But there was another game that they played together, and it was the West Ham away game under Freddie, which worked quite well, but it wasn't like a coherent performance. We blitzed them within 10 to 15 minutes with 3 goals. And that was a game where we kept it quite simple. Martinelli on the left, Pepe on the right, Ozil at 10 and Aubameyang up front. It was that sort of game. But Martinelli and Aubameyang linked up quite well. I mean, he looked dangerous. He produced a really good cross in the first half, which Aubameyang shot just wide. But it was good to see that these two players were linking up, because not only is Martinelli our future, he's 19 years old, he's a really good player, but Aubameyang is our near future anyway, because obviously he's signed a new deal, he's here till 2023 now. So we have to make Martinelli and Aubameyang work, and if that eventually means that Aubameyang is taken over by Martinelli, so be it. But we have to get these two working, because they're probably our two best attackers when you think about it. I know Saka is a really good attacker as well, but in terms of being dangerous and getting loads of shots off, these two are the players that you want in your attack. And I think in general, the front four actually looks very balanced in general. I think Odegaard at 10, I think he created 4 chances on the day, which is really good for him. Got him some confidence, because I don't think he was good in the first leg against Villarreal. We had 2 basically forwards in Martinelli and Aubameyang who were dangerous on the day, both of them were. And you had Willian and Odegaard who were a bit more technically secure. Now, Willian didn't have an incredible performance. He was fine. You can see he just doesn't have the beating of any man. He goes inside a lot. I don't know if that's instruction, but he just doesn't have that same burst that he had at Chelsea. He's lost the yard of pace, you can tell. But the front four worked well together, and I was really pleased to see that, because I think attacking football is so much about relationships and getting attacks to work together and gel together, and sometimes I think we've just not done that. The reason why, personally, for me, I've liked a front four of Saka, Odegaard, Smith Rowe and Aubameyang is because it gelled together, it worked together. There were 3 effective creators behind the one striker and Aubameyang. It worked. There was a lot of technical security there. And Arsenal in general don't have enough technical security in their team. We need a lot more. I mean, if Odegaard goes back to Real Madrid next summer, then the only technical secure player we have is Emile Smith-Rowe. I know Saka is a very good, technically assured player, but you want another one who will create more chances compared to Smith-Rowe, and that's the important thing for me. But it was good. We were doing well. We were performing well. We had another few chances. I mean, Bellerin was getting in behind very well. I thought he had a good game on the day. I think he's taken a lot of stick, rightly so, because I don't think he's had his best season. I think we're winding down to see the end of Hector Bellerin's career, but it was good to see him produce a performance like this. I think he's done his semi-final chances no harm. I think he should play on Thursday, no doubt in my mind. We were having good efforts. I mean, Xhaka had a good effort outside the box, which was well saved. El Neni from the resulting corner had a header cleared off the line. It was a good performance, and we went in at half-time 1-0 up. Newcastle were very poor. They just weren't on it on the day. And like I said, they were a team pretty much on the beach. We came out into the second half, and then the Luiz injury happened, which obviously is a big blow. It was very interesting to see Callum Chambers come on for David Luiz, because I think you haven't seen that enough, but he was pretty much the only option that we had in this on our bench. Rob Holding wasn't even in the squad, so you can understand why Chambers was brought on. But it was a good performance from Chambers, I thought, when he came on. He doesn't have the passing range that David Luiz does, but I think he's actually quite solid as a centre-back, and I think he's improved a lot since his loan deals. I think there is some sort of player there. If it's Arsenal standard or where we want to go, I'm not sure, but he performed well here, and it was a really good performance from Chambers when he came on. Newcastle got into the game a bit more, but without really threatening. I mean, for the whole game, Newcastle had 5 shots and only 1 on target, so we really dominated this, and we really put the pressure on them all game. It was nice to have a game like this where we were the most dominant side, because there's been a lot of games this season where we just haven't been at the races and we've been second best. So it was nice to have a really dominant away performance against a side like Newcastle, who we are expected to beat, and we actually do beat them. So it was nice to have that game. But then we had a second goal, and it was Pierre-Emerick Aubameyang obviously returning, and I thought this was a really underrated goal. So it was a really good build-up between Odegaard, Xhaka, Ceballos and Aubameyang in the first place. Aubameyang dribbles forward, he gets fouled, but nothing's given. Odegaard passes to Martinelli, who puts in an incredible cross. It's a really, really good cross. And Aubameyang, he volleys it in terrifically. It's a better goal the more you watch it, because the height that the cross is at, you wouldn't expect him to get as high as he did, but he does. It's just a really, really good goal. He loves scoring against Newcastle. He gets a lot of goals against Newcastle, does Aubameyang. But it was nice to get him on the score sheet. He has 10 goals in his last 13 starts for Arsenal since Christmas. So he's definitely improved. We've definitely found the system for him to get him up front, to get him better goals. It's funny how Aubameyang has now come back with the haircut and he's now started scoring. It would have been funny to see him score with the other haircut. But good for him. I'm happy for him to get a goal. It will give him some confidence before Thursday. It was good to see him back. He actually looked quite sharp on the day. I think he had a few attempts on goal, which was really good. He should start on Thursday. I know he's just come back from malaria, but it was good to get him this match fitness in him. And now, hopefully, on Thursday, he can come back into the side and really produce a good performance for us, because we're going to need it. He's going to need to be in this side if we're going to blitz Villarreal away. But since the second goal, we pretty much controlled things. I think we had a couple more chances. I think Chambers had a free header from a Willian cross, but he put it wide. It was just really good controlled possession in the end. We brought on a couple more changes. We brought on Pepe for Aubameyang and Partey for Martin Odegaard. Ceballos pushed up to number 10. So these were quite easy changes that just kept us ticking and made us control possession. There was actually a chance near the end where if we dribbled a bit better and didn't get a block in, Willian would have been straight through, and it would have been really interesting to see if he got his first goal for Arsenal. But as the game was winding down, there was actually an incident with Fabian Schär where he gets a red card. I think it's a clumsy challenge. I think it's pretty much a red card, but I know the commentator was saying, I don't know why it was given a red card. If it was a yellow card, I think it would have stayed as that. But it was a pretty dirty challenge from Fabian Schär. He just looked frustrated. But he got sent off. He just came back from injury as well. So to get subbed on and then to get sent off is actually quite hilarious. But full time, 2-0. Arsenal move up to 9th in the table, which is obviously not good enough when you think about it. But, I mean, this league season's been over for a while. I mean, we're only 3 points behind Everton. I know Everton have to play... I think they have to play Aston Villa again. I'm not 100% sure on that, but both Everton and Aston Villa have a game in hand, so I think it's against each other. So that will be interesting to see. I think we can finish 8th as highest. Like, our form doesn't suggest we can finish 8th, but I'm just hoping that we can surprise people and finish a bit higher up in the table. 8th wouldn't be the worst thing. I mean, 7th, if we manage to finish 7th, we won't, because we're, 5 points behind Liverpool with 4 games left. We're not going to finish 7th. We get the Europa League, Conference League. So, obviously, you don't really want that, but it'll be interesting to see what happens. But obviously, this game wasn't really important in the grand scheme of things. Thursday is the most important game of the season. It's the Europa League semi-final against Unai Emery. We're obviously 2-1 down in the leg and in the tie, and we just need to produce a really good performance here. Arteta can't overthink things again. Arteta played it simple against Newcastle, and that's what he needs to do. That's what any manager needs to do. And I know some people like a manager who will try risks, but managers who try risks have to get it right. When they don't, they will always be blamed for not keeping it simple enough. And that's what Arteta did on Thursday with playing Emile Smith-Rowe up front. He should have just played Eddie Nketiah. It would have probably been a smarter thing. I know he's not as good as Aubameyang or Lacazette. I know his hands were a bit tired in terms of that selection. He could have even played Martinelli as a centre-forward. But just don't overthink things. Just be normal, be logical with what you're doing, because it would have been much easier on your back if you'd done that and lost, because then you wouldn't have been blamed for that. But I am worried about Thursday. I've got a slight hint we might not do it. I hope I'm wrong. I'm really nervous already, because I obviously am really up for this game. I want Arsenal to win. I want Arsenal to get to a European final and win this competition. But I'm not really confident. Even if we do somehow get through against Villarreal, Manchester United in the final, they're basically in the final if we're being honest here. Manchester United in the final, that would be an incredibly tough game. I know it's a one-off game, anything can happen, but we've never beaten an English side in Europe, so I wouldn't be confident at all. So hopefully we can do it, but let's see what happens on Thursday. So I got asked one question by regular contributor Jack. He's changed his @ on Twitter, but it's at AFCJack1998. And there's a few questions here, but it's one tweet that got tweeted at me. So he asks, what would your team be for Thursday? I would go with Aubameyang and Martinelli together, add something different. So we'll answer that question first. So my team for Thursday would be Leno in goal, obviously. Bellerin at right back. I think he done really well on Sunday. It's not to say Callum Chambers has been bad. I just think Bellerin, actually use him there will be actually a smart thing. I don't think we'll have that much of an issue in terms of people attacking him on the left flank. But I think he played himself into contention, I think, on Sunday. The centre-back partnership, Holding and Gabriel, married and performed well in the first leg, so I think Gabriel should come in here. Gabriel was our best central defender, if you think about it. And it's just a shame about Luiz, because Luiz would have certainly been in after his performance against Newcastle. Left-back is the intriguing one. I would start Saka at left back. I know a lot of people will say Cedric, and a lot of people will want Saka further forward. But my reason why here is just because I want Granit Xhaka and Thomas Partey in midfield. I don't want Spice is suspended, so it's either Xhaka in midfield or El Neni. And unless Arteta rewards El Neni for his great performance against Newcastle, for his goal, I mean, he shouldn't. Let's be real. Let's just get Xhaka in midfield and play Saka at left back. You could play Cedric at left back, but I think I would be more confident with Saka at left back bombing forward. We need goals, so if Saka can provide a bit more goal threat from that left flank, going down that left wing, I'd be happy with it. So the midfield, as I just stated, was Partey and Xhaka. And then the front four is interesting. Obviously, striker, Aubameyang, no question for me. And then it's just what you do behind. If you're starting Saka left back, then Pepe has to play at the right. Now, it will just be an interesting thing is if you play Odegaard, Smith Rowe, or Martinelli. So it's two of them three. I would play Odegaard and Smith Rowe behind Aubameyang. Now, my only reason for this, and it's not because Martinelli has performed poorly, and it's really harsh to not play Martinelli because he was really good against Newcastle, but my only reason for this is just because I think Gabriel Martinelli is going to be a good impact off the bench if we need so. If you start with Martinelli and Pepe, you're not really having an incredible impact off the bench. You need to save something just in case it goes really wrong. We have no Lacazette on the bench, so he can't come on. The only options on the bench, you would have Nketiah, you would have Willian, Reece Nelson. So Martinelli off the bench is your guaranteed super sub here. Again, it's incredibly harsh, but I would go with that. Pepe's been incredible in the Europa League this season. I would start him. This is a really good game for him. But that's the team I would go with on Thursday. The other question that Jack sent me is, should we extend David Luiz for another 12 months? I think we looked much better thanks to him. Luiz is an interesting one. I have gone on this podcast and said that I don't think we should give Luiz an extra contract. I like him as a player. I think he's done much better than I ever thought he would. He's been really good this season. Well, really good relative to other centre-backs that we've had. I don't think he's been the worst signing. I just don't think we should extend him for another 12 months. I think we should be looking to integrate William Saliba into the side. Now, if you don't extend Luiz for another 12 months, then that means Rob Holding is your most senior centre-back, which can be a bit of a question mark because obviously Rob Holding, he's had a mixed season. He's been good at times, but he's also been bad. Saliba is the one where you have to integrate him in somehow. I don't care how, we just have to get him inside. We can't waste a 30 million signing like Saliba. So I hope he gets brought back and integrated in the squad. If Luiz does stay, then you probably look to sell Rob Holding. He's just signed a new deal, but you can get some money for him. Chambers, I don't know what you're going to do with him. Do you consider him a fullback now? Do you consider him a centre-back? Mavropanos will probably leave. So there are questions. Obviously, left centre-back's pretty much locked down with Mari and Gabriel. But right centre-back will be an interesting position to do in the summer. I would just integrate Saliba in. He's had a good loan spell at Nice. He's going to make mistakes. I know he is. But I'm just excited about using him, and I just want us to use him correctly rather than just waste his talent and waste the money and try and sell him. But for Luiz, he's been a good servant, but it's probably better to just say goodbye at this point. But thanks for your question, Jack. Again, you can ask me any questions at AFCMet on Twitter. And that's the end of this podcast. And thank you for joining me. Obviously, the big game is on Thursday. I'm sure you guys are all incredibly nervous as much as I am. I hope we do a really good performance. and go through to a European final, because that would be pretty special, especially with fans being able to go to that final as well. Yes, it would be against Manchester United, but anything can happen in a one-off game. But I'll speak to you after that game, and until then, come on you Gunners.
Well, it's broken Kanu's way, and De Hui's right out of the centre. It's Kanu, what's he going to do? Oh!